I'm gonna be honest with you guys, but in the recent updates, Tycoon has done so many freaking balance changes, and this update here is also no exception to that, because as you guys can probably already see by the video length, there will be a lot to actually get for, because the tanks have been fully revamped in terms of a lot of things, and today I'll be showing you basically everything which was done. But before we start, every single tank has had a change to its health value, so today I'm gonna be going over that. So previously, the Sherman Caliope had over 1200 health, now it has 1500, and the M4 Sherman was buffed from 1200 to 1450. The T-72 Moderna has went from 1620 to 1950, and the T-72 has went from 1400 to 1750. Now, the Weasel 1 anti-air has been buffed from 1000 to 1350. The Weasel 1 Tau was buffed by 500 health, it used to have 1000. The Weasel 1 MK20 has also received exactly the same buff. Now, the ADATS has also received a buff from 1400 to 1500. It's pretty small, however, its part requirement has also been increased by quite a bit. Now, the LOSAT has also been buffed from 1350 to 1750. Now, with this, the Leopard 2A7 has finally also got some love because it has been increased from 1400 to 1850. And the Leopard 2 Orc has also been buffed from 1750 to 1950. Now with this, the mouse was also buffed quite a lot. I don't even remember how much health this thing had, but it had just way too much. And the same change was also made to the E100. Now with this, the Challenger has went from 1900 to 2250. The M2A2 Bradley has also been buffed by around 300 health, along with its friend M3 Bradley. I'm not sure what the exact values were for this, so I'm just not gonna be trying to guess them, to be honest. The M1 Abrams has also had a buff to its health. Previously it had 1650 health, now it has 1950. With this, the M1A2 Abrams has also received a health buff. Previously it had over 1800 health, I believe that was, if not even more than that. Now it has 2500 health. The TOS Buratino has also been buffed quite a bit. It previously had 1700 health, now it's been bumped up to 1900. And the T90 has also had previously 1700 health, and it's been bumped up to 1950. The T90M has also had a lot of health buffs. Previously it had 1800 health, and it's also been bumped up by 250. That is a lot of changes, by the way. I know that this might seem a little bit tiring, but the T14 Armada was buffed from 1500 to 1900. That is a huge change. That is a buff of 400 health. The Terminator was buffed by 250 health. The PLO1 was buffed by 450. The KF51 was also buffed by 300. Abrams X was buffed by 250 health. The Automatic was buffed by 150. The BMD4M was buffed by 300. The TO55 was buffed by 250, and lastly the K9 Fender was also buffed by 300 health. Well, after we got that out the way, let's take a look at some other changes which were also made. So the next change which was made in this update is that they have reworked the turret damage towards the T90M, T14 Armada, M1 Abrams, Leopard 2 Orc, and the Abrams X. So firstly, taking a look at the cannon damage of the T90M, this thing is going to be able to do exactly 53% to the Striker's Shard after hitting it with one cannon shell. However, it's only going to be able to do 24% to the TO55, and the reason why I'm using it once again in this video is because it does have the same health as the Abrams X, and it just has better cost efficiency, so it's easier for me to test. But anyway, the T14 Armada will be able to do exactly 52% of damage to the Striker's Shard. However, it will be able to do 39% of damage to the TO55. The M1 Abrams has also been buffed. It's now going to be able to do 53% to the Striker Shard with its cannon and 45% to the TO55. The Leopard 2 Orc has also received a change. It's now going to be able to do 47% to the Striker Shard and 36% to the TO55. And lastly, and which was probably one of my least favorite changes, with the Abrams X, now it's going to be able to do 47% to the Shard and only 32% to the TO55. So here's also a picture on the screen right now which basically tells you guys the damages that it was able to do in percentages. And what do you notice? The Abrams X is the second worst on this list in terms of overall cannon damage, which to me just makes absolutely no sense since it previously had one of the strongest cannons in the game. So essentially what they've done here is that they fully nerfed the Abrams X quite heavily, which is definitely not a sight you want to see since a lot of people are definitely going to be angry about this. Now with this, they have also reworked the rocket damage on the Leopard 2 Orc, Abrams X, Sherman Caliope, and the TOS Buratino. So firstly, taking a look at the Leopard, now it will be able to do exactly 23% to the TO-55, which honestly is kind of first since if you combine it with its cannon, you can definitely get some good damage out. However, its damage against the Shorad is going to be exactly 28%. Now, if you guys have thought that the Abrams X hasn't received enough nerfs, well, too bad, you're in for another ride because the Abrams X drones have also been nerfed. Now, they'll only be able to do 11% per hit to the Shorad, which means that their accumulated damage is going to be around 44%. Now, the Abrams X's Javelin will also be able to do only 27% to the Striker Shorad. So both the Javelin and the drones have been nerfed. However, they haven't only been nerfed against ground vehicles, because if we take a look at the damage of the drones against the TO-55, they'll only be able to do 10% of damage. And now with this, the Javelin will only be able to do 23% to the TO-55. So overall, the Abrams X was nerfed in its cannon, its drones, and the Javelin this update, and the only change which it has received, which was positive, was a 250 health buff. I am not very happy with this. I think this was a little bit too much of a nerf, and the Abrams X might really fall behind now as a tank. Anyway, next up, the Caliope has also received a buff to its rocket fire rate, and now it will be able to do 6% to the TO-55 per hit and do exactly the same amount to the Shorad, which is overall pretty good if the fire rate is going to be decent. This thing has also received some health buffs, so overall I think it might be a pretty decent vehicle now. However, the most wanted buff of the Vortec in history, the TOS Buratino, has received probably one of the bigger updates here, and it now has a better fire rate for its rockets, meaning that you can overall be able to dish out the damage much faster. So its artillery rockets are going to be able to do exactly 16% to the TO-55, and around 22% will also be dealt to the Shorad. So overall, you will be able to actually 5-shot this thing, which is pretty good. However, its standard free fire rockets will now be able to do 11% to the TO-55 and 15% to the Striker Shorad. Not the highest damage, but if the fire rate was improved, then I don't mind this much. However, the most wanted change out of all is that the guided missiles can finally one-tap air. We have been waiting for this for a very long time, but on average, you're now going to be one-shotting most of the planes and every single helicopter in the game. However, these guided rockets will also be able to do around 40% to the Shorad per hit and 32% to the TO-55. However, with this, there were some other minor changes, and they have reduced the camera blur amount when taking damage, and there were also some bug fixes which you guys can also see on the screen right now. Anyway, in conclusion, I am pretty happy with most of these tank balance changes. However, the one which I really dislike right now, it's probably gonna have to be the Abrams X change, simply because since they buffed every single tank, this one really did not need a nerf. Everything being buffed in the game basically nerfs the Abrams X on its own. But anyway, I will see you guys in the next video. Do let me know in the comment section down below what you think about these changes. And yeah, thank you all so much for watching, and thank you so much to all my channel members.